Something huge just happened in Florida, and even NASA can't believe it. Satellite images caught strange new towers rising near Kennedy Space Center, and within days, Elon Musk revealed a billion-dollar project that's rewriting the rules of space travel. It's faster than anything NASA ever built, bigger than anyone expected, and already changing how humanity reaches the stars. What did SpaceX just unveil that left NASA completely speechless? Let's discover. NASA never expected this from SpaceX. In the middle of Florida's Space Coast, something massive is rising, and it's not a rocket. Across from the Kennedy Space Center's historic launch pads, a forest of cranes, steel beams, and unfinished towers now stretches into the horizon. Welcome to one of the largest aerospace build-outs in American history. NASA engineers visiting the site were reportedly stunned, not by what was launching, but by what was being built. How did SpaceX manage to shock NASA on its own home turf? What exactly is Elon Musk constructing in Florida that has left officials speechless? And could this be the moment that changes America's entire space future? The project now dominating headlines is known informally as Gigabay Florida, a massive $1.8 billion expansion of SpaceX's Starship program at the Kennedy Space Center. Located near the historic Launch Complex 39A, the same pad that sent Apollo astronauts to the moon, SpaceX has developed a fully integrated ecosystem designed to build, assemble, test, and launch starships directly from the heart of America's space gateway. Recent flyovers by local media like Florida Today and independent observers at nasaspaceflight.com revealed just how far construction has come. Satellite imagery shows concrete foundations covering acres of ground, multiple cranes lifting steel sections into position, and tall framework emerging for what will become a colossal Starship integration tower. At its core, Gigabay is designed to function like SpaceX's answer to a gigafactory, but instead of producing cars or batteries, it will produce fully reusable rockets. Engineers describe it as a Starship assembly line, where rockets and boosters can be built in parallel rather than one at a time. The site includes giant fabrication bays where stainless steel Starship sections are welded together, orbital launch mounts capable of holding the 400-foot-tall vehicle, and an integration tower equipped with chopstick arms to catch returning boosters. For the first time, a commercial company is replicating, and arguably surpassing, NASA-level infrastructure inside the Kennedy complex itself. When news first broke about the project, even insiders underestimated how quickly SpaceX would move. Within months, cleared land turned into rising frameworks, and structural steel began arriving by the ton. A senior NASA contractor was quoted calling the pace unprecedented, while another referred to the site as the start of a privatized Cape Renaissance. The shock within NASA came not from the idea that SpaceX was expanding, but from the scale and speed of it. Large-scale government projects at the Cape, from the Artemis program to SLS launch infrastructure, typically take years just to receive environmental clearance. SpaceX, operating within existing regulatory frameworks, broke ground and began visible construction in a fraction of that time. It's not hard to see why NASA engineers and managers were taken aback. Launch Complex 39A, where much of SpaceX's work is centered, remains one of NASA's most historically significant sites. It's where Apollo 11 departed for the Moon and where the Space Shuttle launched for 3 decades. Now, SpaceX is not just using that pad, it's expanding around it, adding Starship infrastructure that dwarfs many of NASA's older structures. That means the same launch territory could soon host both the Space Launch System and the world's most powerful commercial rocket, side by side. For many within NASA, it's an uneasy but fascinating development. The line between public and private space operations is beginning to blur. The Space Coast, once defined by government-funded missions, is rapidly transforming into a commercial superhub. According to state economic reports, SpaceX's Florida expansion could create roughly 600 direct jobs by 2030, not counting thousands of indirect roles in construction, logistics, and tourism. Already, local businesses are seeing the ripple effects, as hotels and rental homes near Cape Canaveral report surges in bookings whenever major construction milestones or Starship transport operations take place. Crowds have begun gathering along beaches and viewing platforms for glimpses of cranes lifting enormous rocket parts into the air. Photographers post updates about how the empty fields near Roberts Road have turned into one of the busiest aerospace construction sites in the world. Yet, this transformation hasn't come without friction. The FAA's draft environmental impact statement revealed just how disruptive Starship operations could become once launches begin. SpaceX has requested approval for up to 44 Starship launches per year from Florida, nearly one per week, a rate that would make Kennedy Space Center the busiest launch site on Earth. Local residents and environmental groups have voiced concerns about noise, habitat disturbance, and restricted public access. Playa Linda Beach, a popular spot within Canaveral National Seashore, could be closed for as many as 60 days each year during launch windows. The FAA has also warned of possible airspace delays of up to 2 hours during Starship flights, impacting nearby airports. Still, despite these concerns, local sentiment remains largely supportive, driven by the economic momentum and national pride associated with hosting SpaceX's next chapter. For many residents of Florida, this expansion proves that America has once again secured its position at the center of global space exploration. Officials from the Space Coast Office of Tourism estimate that Starship's first Florida launch could attract tens of thousands of visitors, rivaling the crowds of the Apollo era. The symbolism isn't lost on anyone. A half-century after humanity first left Earth for the Moon, the same launch pads are being prepared for a new kind of mission. This time, the rockets are rolling out of a privately built complex. The real reason SpaceX left Texas. In the span of months, Elon Musk's company shifted the center of gravity for its most ambitious project away from the Texas borderlands and into the heart of America's space legacy. What could possibly drive one of the most advanced private space programs in history to uproot itself from its original launch site? What went wrong in Texas, and what has changed so dramatically in Florida that NASA now calls it the linchpin of humanity's next giant leap? In the mid-2010s, Musk envisioned a private launch complex that could operate free from bureaucracy and surrounded by nothing but open land and ocean. Starbase, as it came to be known, rose out of the coastal flats of Cameron County, isolated, wind-swept, and perfectly suited for high-risk rocket testing. The first Starship prototypes, called Starhopper, SN1, SN8, and so on, were welded together in huge tents, their stainless steel frames gleaming under the Texas sun. Those early launches were chaotic, sometimes catastrophic, and completely revolutionary. Rockets exploded mid-air. Engines failed spectacularly. But each fiery test pushed the engineering forward, proving that stainless steel could survive the violence of reentry, that reusable rockets could be scaled to unprecedented size, and that the dream of Mars was not just theoretical. Still, as the prototypes grew larger and more complex, so did the challenges. Federal Aviation Administration investigations dragged on for months after every major test. Environmental groups filed lawsuits over the destruction of wetlands and potential harm to wildlife near the Boca Chica Wildlife Refuge. Each explosion triggered more scrutiny, more delays, and more restrictions. Even local residents, initially enthusiastic about SpaceX's arrival, began voicing frustration over road closures and shockwaves that rattled windows miles away. Starbase had been built as a frontier outpost of innovation, but by 2024, it had reached its limits. Musk himself admitted that Boca Chica was never meant to handle a full production ecosystem for Starship. The move to Florida was a strategic evolution. Kennedy Space Center, sitting on the Atlantic coast, offers advantages that Texas simply cannot match. Its eastern trajectory opens directly into the ocean, providing safer, more efficient orbital routes. It already houses decades of launch infrastructure, like massive flame trenches, fueling depots, and control facilities built for the Space Shuttle and Apollo programs. And perhaps most importantly, it sits next to NASA's Nerve Center, meaning SpaceX can integrate its Starship development directly with Artemis operations. But how did this new partnership come to be? SpaceX's relationship with NASA has been building for over a decade. Back in 2010, few believed a private company could reliably transport astronauts to orbit. Yet through the Commercial Crew Program, SpaceX's Crew Dragon began doing exactly that, ferrying astronauts to and from the International Space Station with near-perfect success. Each successful mission deepened NASA's confidence in the company's capabilities. By 2021, NASA had selected SpaceX's Starship as the lander for Artemis 3, the first human lunar landing in over half a century. That choice was monumental as it placed NASA's most important mission in the hands of a company that, just a few years earlier, had been known for exploding prototypes in Texas fields. NASA's reliance on Starship is now absolute. The lunar version of the vehicle, called HLS or Human Landing System, will carry astronauts from lunar orbit to the Moon's surface and back again. The Florida expansion ensures that this version of Starship can be assembled, tested, and launched just a few miles away from the Artemis hardware it will soon accompany. For NASA, the proximity translates to faster coordination, easier logistics, and a shared launch cadence that could transform the pace of exploration. For SpaceX, it represents an acknowledgement that the private sector isn't just supplementing national space efforts, but actively leading them. So why Florida? Its symbolic connection to American spaceflight, the state offers unmatched practical advantages. Its location allows rockets to launch eastward over open ocean, taking advantage of Earth's rotation for added velocity and minimizing risk to populated areas. The region already hosts hundreds of aerospace suppliers, providing quick access to materials and talent. Decades of shuttle operations have left behind vast facilities designed for heavy-lift vehicles, buildings, cranes, pipelines, and control networks that can be adapted rather than rebuilt from scratch. And with over 500,000 tourists visiting the Kennedy Space Center Visitor Complex each year, every launch becomes not just a technical event but a public spectacle. Elon Musk's long-term vision ties all of these threads together. His goal is not merely to build a reusable rocket but to establish a rapid turnaround system capable of same-day reflights, rockets launching, landing, refueling, and launching again within hours. It's an approach inspired by commercial aviation rather than traditional spaceflight. Musk has spoken of achieving daily orbital operations, where Starship launches as routinely as passenger jets depart an airport. Such a system would slash costs, multiply mission frequency, and enable sustained colonization efforts on Mars. Florida's new Gigabay, with its coastal launch pads, integrated refueling lines, and proximity to NASA's command infrastructure, is built precisely for that rhythm. And yet, beneath the optimism, challenges remain. The shift to Florida has reignited debates over environmental impact and airspace congestion. The same communities that once cheered the space shuttle era are now voicing concerns over noise levels and beach closures at Playa Linda. Critics argue that privatizing key portions of the Kennedy Space Center risks sidelining public oversight. Supporters counter that SpaceX's presence is rejuvenating the region's economy, creating hundreds of high-skill jobs, and ensuring that Florida remains the global hub of human spaceflight. Inside Elon Musk's new space empire, Starship is no longer just a prototype sitting on a test pad in Texas, it's becoming a fully integrated logistics network capable. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.